I came home early because the meeting ended in silence. No applause, no closure, just men staring at the table like it might confess something if we waited long enough. I remember thinking how quiet the house would be, how I'd move through it without announcing myself. The door was unlocked. That was the first fracture. I stepped inside and the air felt wrong, too still, like a room that had been holding its breath. I heard his voice before I understood the words, low, instructional, patient in a way that made my skin crawl. I followed the sound. The hallway narrowed, the light dimmed. Then I saw them. My daughter, grown, married, still carrying the soft reflex to obey, was on her knees, her back straight with fear, her hands clenched white in her lap. His hand was in her hair, not gripping yet, just enough to remind her it could. He leaned close, like a teacher correcting a mistake. Now I'll teach you how a real woman should be in her husband's home. The world did not explode. It condensed. Every sound folded inward. My pulse slowed. My thoughts sharpened into something thin and lethal. I didn't scream. I didn't move. I watched. Because in that moment, I understood something essential. This wasn't an accident. This was a system. I left without being seen. That decision saved me. In the car, my hands didn't shake. My mind began assembling the past with surgical clarity. The dinners, the unsolicited advice, the way he corrected her posture, her tone, her obedience, always smiling, always just plausible enough to dismiss. My daughter's silence hadn't been absence, it had been containment. And my son-in-law, God, the way he deferred to his father, the way he let him guide the marriage, the way he said, "Dad knows best," like it was harmless tradition instead of inheritance. I replayed every moment I'd ignored, every time she flinched when his name was mentioned, every visit she cut short, every apology she made for nothing. I wanted denial. I wanted misunderstanding, but denial requires noise. This truth was quiet. That night, I didn't call her. I didn't confront anyone. I sat at my kitchen table and wrote names, dates, behaviors, patterns. Control thrives on chaos. I was going to starve it. I became invisible. I asked questions that sounded like concern. I listened longer than I spoke. I watched his eyes when my daughter entered a room, how they followed, how they measured. I learned things. About a family counselor who wasn't licensed, about money moved without her knowledge, about messages erased but not destroyed. Digital footprints are arrogant. They assume no one will kneel and look closely. I did. I requested records under the guise of financial planning. I found clauses written to isolate, dependency disguised as protection. My daughter began sleeping at my house more often. I didn't ask why. I just made space. One night she said, "I don't know who I am when I'm there." I nodded. Inside, something calcified. Still, no confrontation. Predators rely on reaction. I was building a ledger. The final confirmation arrived in an email. Testimony, written, time-stamped, from another woman, a former daughter-in-law. Different decade, same words, same grooming, same threats dressed as guidance. I printed everything. When I invited him for coffee, he smiled like a man who believed in inheritance. I slid the folder across the table. Didn't speak. He opened it. The color drained from his face in increments. Not fear, calculation failing. I can explain. I raised a finger. Silence fell like a verdict. He understood then. This wasn't accusation. It was accounting. I didn't threaten him. I informed him. The documents had been copied, distributed. His church elders, his employer, a lawyer specializing in coercive control already retained. I told him my daughter was leaving that night. I told him if he contacted her again, every page would become public record. His hands shook. Mine did not. Power isn't volume. It's inevitability. When he begged, it was almost embarrassing. When he tried to reframe himself as misunderstood, I stood and put on my coat. I leaned close enough for him to smell my perfume. You taught her obedience, I said. I taught her memory. My daughter sleeps peacefully now, not healed, but free enough to begin. As for me, I don't feel victorious. I feel precise. Some people think revenge is fire. They're wrong. It's documentation. It's timing. It's knowing when to speak and when silence will do more damage. I didn't destroy him. I let the truth do what it always does when finally unchained. I walked away lighter, not because justice was loud, but because it was finished.